Hello and welcome back to another EDH deck design video. Today I'm going to be posting a requested video. Someone had heard me comment on this in a previous video. I had taken it apart, but I still have the cards, and it's just fun anyways. This is a budget version of Jeleva. This is also a gimmick and thematic deck. This is not a very strong deck. This is a burn deck for EDH. The reason I made this a while back is because if you've ever played with Jeleva, you know that she tends to get a lot of hate. So I tried to design a few variants of Jeleva to take some pressure off of me for playing her. Didn't really pan out too well because people tend to remember my other Jeleva deck. Please check that video out because it is infinitely better than this. But I mean, it's still a fun deck to do. I've done a few variants of her. This is a burn build, which I'll be showing here. Another variant I built was a kind of a competitive 1v1 land destruction deck with about 38 Molten Rain effects, where the idea was to ramp her out and be able to start stone raining people on turn 3 and plus every turn, with 3 win conditions in the deck being Bribery, Hatred, and the Army of the Damned. Whatever the zombie one is. So that wasn't a fun deck. I got told to take that apart because no one would ever play against it. Probably didn't help the idea of taking heat off of Jeleva. But this one it's terrible, but it's entirely funny and entertaining to play. So Jeleva, just in case you don't know what she does, she is a 4-mana costing 1/3 vampire wizard with flying. When she is cast and enters, you grab 4 cards off the top of everyone's deck. When she's declared as an attacker, you can cast an instant or sorcery from her for free. Took a lot of ideas from my primary build to make this functional. As a budget deck, I'm missing a lot of powerful cards. My land base is also highly budget, and I'll talk about that shortly here. So the speed of the deck is not as fast because most of my lands, to correct the callers, essentially I'm going to be slightly 1 turn behind because of a tap land effect. I hate that. But as a budget deck, this is a very cheap deck to build. So, as a burn deck, I'm going to go through the permanents first, and then I'm going to go through the spells. There are 48 burn spells in this deck. I essentially refuse to put, number 1, the good burn spells. So there's no lightning bolts. There are essentially the classic burn spells, lightning bolts, even the newer versions like the incinerate classics like a lightning strike. I did not want them in the deck. The initial laughing stock of the deck was I wanted to main deck Lava Axe and something and make it useful. So let's go through the permanents and show you how I can make Lava Axe useful in EDH. By the way, Lava Axe is not good. I would not suggest running it, but it's in this deck. So obviously in a burn deck, this is very similar to my other Jeleva deck with the ramp, but we'll start with the enchantments. There are a lot of spells in the deck that do direct damage. I have them broken down, and you'll see all the 48 spells shortly. But obviously doubling the damage is ideal. A 40 life format, you can't really do the lightning bolt effect of having 7 cards or 1 mana costing 3 damage spells equating to 21 damage in your opening hand. That is something you want in modern. In 40 life you need some kind of double effect, so of course I'm running all 3 that work on spells. This one is fun because it is one-sided. And the last enchantment here is Exquisite Blood. One of the thematic ideas I had, I never designed it, was to use all of the vampire type spells that drain life and gain me life off of Jeleva. Very thematic, being that she's a vampire, and it would have been a fun build, except that they're just not strong. They are worse than this design. There's plenty to do. It's just it's not a very, very strong effect. Burn itself is proving to be just average to subpar. Something like that would not work. But so 3 damage doublers and 1 effect that really gets me in the game if I do a big burn spell there. The rest of the non-land permanents, let's go through this now. There are obviously a pair of boots because I like giving her haste. Not as traumatizing as seeing these on Jeleva as in my normal Jeleva deck. And I do have 1 little bit more ramp in this deck than the previous one, so I love my obvious 1 drops. The bauble is important because I am doing a budget land base, so it fixes the callers. Then of course the 3 signets, and the 3 diamonds. Sadly I don't have enough 7th edition diamonds to go around. But in this build I'm actually running a Chromatic Lantern. This is one of the very few expensive cards in the deck. It just costs a few bucks. But I mean, in a budget design, this is, especially a 3-color design, this is exceptionally important. But with the lands, let's go ahead and get that out of the way too to finish the permanents. I'm running 36 lands because, as you saw, there are, what was that, 9 accelerants? Again, this is a highly budget setup. You can probably design this whole deck, a 3-color functional deck with an appropriate land base for probably $30 or less. So we have these two as our 3-color producing lands. Temple is just generically good. Flamekin Village is another tap land I may take out. I just like to have another haste outlet. Bajuka Bog is just another classic. This is not actually supposed to be in the deck. This is an expensive card, but I just had an extra one laying around and I didn't want to run 35 lands. So obviously for running budget, this is not really that important. It's just a sack outlet to kill Jeleva if she's going to be Terminus or something like that. Mirrored Landscape, although, is very important. Again, this helps correct 2 lands. It fetches 2 basics. So seeing this tapped on turn 1 and playing a Soul Ring on turn 2 excels your land up to 5 mana for turn 3. But it grabs 2 basics, very important. Then the rest of these are actually just your Terramorphic Expanse variants. A lot of people don't know about this land. It's essentially a Terramorphic Expanse you have to pay to activate, but you can tap it on the turn it comes into play. Then we have the Evolving Wild and Terramorphic Expanse. And then we have the 2 rubbish fetch lands from Mirage here. They just come to play tapped, but then they untap and they put in a basic untapped on the following turn. And then we have all 5 panoramas. Again, they come into play untapped, so I can use these to drop Artifact Accelerant early. Very good. Here we go. So what is that? 10 total lands, fetch quote-unquote lands, that help us correct our land base. And the rest of these are literally basics, and the irony is this is usually the exact opposite of what you see Grixis decks as. There are mostly mountains here. Let me start stuttering like a tard. Then just a handful of swamps, and a minimalistic number of islands. Again, as a budget, you don't really need the stupid full art lands. I didn't have a use for them elsewhere. I was making a Tribal Genie deck, but I can't really find a way of making that work right now, so these lands are being pulled from that. But that's it. Let's go on to the spells. There are 48 burn spells in the deck. Again, you can technically make any kind of variant of Jeleva you want with any kind of theme, because you saw with the minimalistic artifact accelerant in Jeleva, you usually have about room for 45 spells and about 10 to so support. It's so easy to build around her if you just pick up a theme and go with it. Burn was just funny, and I wanted to basically play a deck that had a lot of subpar spells that still had sometimes a functionality. So we'll start with a stack of stuff that just targets creatures. And then they have some other modes typically, like Dead and Gone is a bounce or a burn creature for 2. Fated Conflagration is great for killing off planeswalkers and scrying. Another sub-theme for Jeleva I was thinking about, if you've been playing Magic long, you know typically in some sets there are series or cycles of cards. For example, there is a whole bunch of Fated cards in this set, like the black one reanimates, the blue one gets a copy of a creature you control. There are some other cards I'll point out that I have the same idea with, but that's just another idea for Jeleva I had, was essentially just all the cycles of Grixis spells. The problem is a lot of them have X in their mana cost. It doesn't quite work out. Bit Blast cascades. Into the Maw hits a land. Burn Away exiles a graveyard. This is actually a very good spell. I've been wanting to put this in more decks. And then we have 2 that burn a creature and destroy the equipment on the creature. Now let's move on to what I'm calling the Lightning Bolt variants. Essentially the biggest chunk of the deck. So all of these spells right here, I could hit a creature or a player. Again, I'm refusing to put the good ones, so things like Incinerate or Lightning Strike variants I didn't want in here. Volcanic Hammer is just funny, because it's a sorcery speed Incinerate. It's not good. It's good by, I guess, at the time it was played, but in today's standards it's terrible. It is a sorcery speed, 1 more expensive Lightning Bolt, and I did not want to put Lightning Bolt in here for reasons untold. Chain of Plasma is another variant of a Lightning Bolt where we can redirect it back and forth. It's just a fun card. Here's another one of the possible cards I like the idea of getting the cycle of, the Beacons. Taking an extra turn or reanimating are both good spells, so this could be a fun theme. This is infinitely better than Lava Axe, because it's an instant, I get it back, and I can hit a creature instead of just a player. Magma Jet's actually really good for scry. Urza's Rage. If this were not a foil, then yeah, this should be foil. The foil version of this card is stupidly expensive for some reason, so I would not suggest getting this because this is also a bad card. There's a handful of cards in the deck that do about 10 damage, and I can pay Kicker off Jeleva, but paying 9, it's just not that efficient. But it's a spell nonetheless. Master of the Way is fantastic. A lot of spells I like that just help me cantrip right off of her, so it's pseudo card advantage. Same thing. Fire and Ice is just another effect where I can hit a creature player or split the damage, and I can tap a creature draw card. Arc Trail is another split card where I can do either or. Same thing with Arc Lightning. This is one of the first arena promos, by the way. I've had this one for super long. Cone of Flame is a nice split where I can hit a few targets. Same thing, Barbed Lightning, where you can entwine right off of Jeleva. Pyrotechnics is another classic, which is just another damage split. Thunderblade Charge is a card that I don't think anyone has ever played in any kind of format ever. It's a very slow lightning bolt, but the fun thing is I can just keep paying it from my graveyard. Not a lot of people care about 3 damage, but I mean it hits utility things and it's free to recast. Well, not free to. It's free to cast off Jeleva, but paying 5 every time she connects to replay it from the graveyard is fun. Just an interesting card. Prophetic Bolt is actually a good card. Probably shouldn't be in the deck because it's too good. Just burn and draw. Or not draw, it's like filter, feud, and draw. Same thing, Electrolyze helps get rid of weenies. Usually just burns a player for 2 since in EDH there's bigger things. Ember Shot is one of the worst cards printed to date. It is a lightning bolt where for paying 6 extra mana you can draw a card. So this is terrible. Lightning Blast is another split. And Thunderbolt, this is the last in the stack because there's a gray area between where creature or player, so we're kind of in that gray area here. So let's go on to the spells that hit players, and then we'll kind of move on to creatures and players both. And yeah, these just hit players. Again, I wanted to main deck Lava Axe. Lava Axe is funny. I remember playing, back when I first started, people thought running 4 of these was unfair and broken because you could kill someone because they're only at 20 life. Yeah. Lightning, I just love hitting someone and making them discard. This is one of my favorite cards. Flame Wave is nice because it kind of hurts and pseudo board wipes a player if they have weenie creatures. Pulse of the Forge is another one of my favorite cards. Again, the Pulse series. Pulse of the Dross, Pulse of the, not Tangle, that's the green one. Dross is the black one, Pulse of the Grid is the blue one. So the pulses are fun off her because I can just bounce it back to my hand if I hit the right opponent. This is usually really good at removing Planeswalkers because I will typically have terrible life in EDH. And it's just a repeatable casting thing because it bounces back to your hand if someone has more life than me. But here's one of the big spells of the deck. This is fun having this out and this out with one of the damage doublers. Casting this off Jeleva and hitting someone for 10 or possibly 20, or if I may have 2 damage doublers out, 40 damage. That's only happened once so far, and I will not let the guy live it down because he was talking shit about the deck. And then I hit him for 40 damage off Jeleva. I think it was like turn 6. It was really lucky because, as you see, I have no tutors in the deck. But these guys are usually the big spells of the deck. But as you saw, this one hits creatures or player, but now that we're on to just a player. And this one also gains me a little bit of life. So let's go on to the spells that actually have more rounded effects. Incendiary Command doesn't really have a spot. I mean, it could be multiple things. It could be player or 2 to all creatures. Slagstorm is 3 to each player or each creature. I like killing Jeleva with this. Anger the Gods, same thing. I just like exiling things. Slice and Dice is another classic fun card. 4 to each creature or cycling. And Breath of Darigaz is something that a lot of people don't expect because, again, I can pay Kicker, and it also lets her stay alive because it's creatures without flying. Now let's go on to the ones that just keep hitting all creatures and players. Flame Break is really good because, again, it's something that hits 3 non-stop. And as you saw, my land base, while some of this may come into play, a lot of my lands come into play tapped, I can usually consistently have 3 red up. Fiery Tempest is great at hitting, again, everything. This is not quite up there to the big TID damage, but this is the best board wipe we have in the deck. Then we have Famine, which is, again, 3 to each creature and 3 to each player. So this is great at, again, killing off Jeleva so I can recast her. And if you're familiar with my other Jeleva deck, I have a lot of stack outlets. I'm using the spells for that. I even have a set of spells for sacking her. I wanted to main deck Mind Bomb because I love the artwork on this card. I've always loved the artwork on this card. This is one of the first cards that actually got me in the game. I started around Mirage. One of my first decks was full of the Thralls from Alliances, Fallen Empires, and just the most random junk. Mind Bomb was never a powerful card, but it's just so fun. It could hit all players for 3. And you can redirect that, of course, to Planeswalkers, like half the spells in this deck. But, of course, people can then discard up to 3 cards to prevent the damage. No one in their right mind is going to discard to prevent the damage, though. Sizzle hits each 3 opponent. Breath of Malfigure hits 5 to each opponent. And Skull Rend hits 2 to each opponent, and they discard 2 at random. This is actually a really good card in multiplayer. Now, the last few spells are the ones that require sacrifice of a creature. So I can, of course, sack my one single creature in the deck. Sack a creature, deal 3 to each creature. That's pretty nice. Sack a creature to burn a creature player for 4. Again, pretty nice. And sack a creature to deal 5 damage to a creature. Again, pretty good removal. And sack a creature to deal 5 to a creature or player. Probably way infinitely better than this. So I'm usually casting these off Jeleva just to reset her. I like holding at least one instant in my hand just in case someone tries to board wipe or something like that. And that's it. So this is a budget Jeleva deck. Ignoring the high market land, this is an incredibly affordable deck to play. With the land base I have set up and the land or the artifact accelerant, I have never actually been color screwed or land screwed in this deck, unless my opponent starts destroying my lands like a dick. The important one again is the Chromatic Lantern. Even without doing the, let's see, I have 6. I have 8 artifacts and Chromatic Lantern. 9 total for artifact accelerant and color fixing, and I have 10 budgety tap lands or fetch lands. The important thing to keep in mind with those fetch lands there is the massive chunk of these come into play untapped. So let's see here. There's these 5 panoramas come into play untapped, and this one right here comes into play untapped. So 6 of the fetch lands that I have, there's technically 11 fetch lands because of Mirrored Landscape, but 6 of these come to play untapped, which is very important. So turn 1, I'm usually going to put a tap land in. Turn 2, I will use one of these to get an accelerant out. So I can actually still consistently get her out on turn 3, but most of the time it's turn 3 or 4. My good Jeleva deck, if you've seen the video, it is typically turn 3, sometimes turn 2. As a budget build, this is funny. If I would actually do maybe the thematic cards with the cycling cards. For example, if I went and removed the 2 shit spells, or a lot of the shit spells in here, and put Pulse of the Dross and Grid in here, this would maybe be a bit more stronger. But right now I want to keep it as a burn deck because it is entirely hilarious to play this deck. It doesn't have a high win rate so far. I'm still playing multiplayer with this, but it causes lots of shenanigans with the damage doublers, and yeah. And of course I do pull spells off my opponent's deck with her. I forgot to mention that in the last video, I think, because of course my spells are subpar, but you are giving me your spells as well. And of course, casting Jeleva, you're typically just exiling good stuff because a lot of people like to put good cards in their EDH decks. Yeah. I would suggest, if you're in for a budget, I would just focus on my land base and Artifact Accelerant. Artifact Accelerant is important in a non-green deck. If you're playing green in EDH, you really don't need to worry too much about your lands because you can just focus on a ramp build. In a non-green EDH, just look what I did with my land base. Maybe put more than 36. I'm only doing that because Jeleva is cheap and I have a lot of ramp in artifact form. But you really don't need, in a non-competitive environment, to invest a lot. I am not in a competitive environment. If you've seen my videos, you know some of my decks are expensive. It's just I've been playing too long and I don't have much else to do. But that doesn't stop me from making fun budget decks like this. Again, the other variant, I still have it was about 38, now there's a little bit more than that. I think I have some of the land destruction spells in my 1v1 build. I think I was up to 42-ish, because some of the spells did more than just destroy land. Like a lot of them had creature destruction, or artifact destruction, or both, or twine effects, or destroy 2 lands. That was a very strong deck. Like I put a proper accelerant, proper lands in there, so I can, even some dark ritual effects, so I can get her out like on turn 2 as fast as possible. Because if you're able to resolve her and swing with her and Stone Rain 1 from under her and from your hand, and the opponent can't stop that, that's usually going to set them back long enough for you to win. Because with Jeleva, if you just keep on stone raining once a turn, sometimes twice a turn if you kill her and get her out again, yeah, the opponent's not going to come back. That is not a very fun thing to go up against. Against different decks, that doesn't work, obviously, because some competitive decks, like a proper V-click deck, is going to have an incredibly low mana curve, and it doesn't really matter if you destroy one land if they have at least 3 mana on board. But against a lot of different archetypes, it'll just completely destroy them. Also, you need to be careful with massive land destruction or stolen. I think it's called a stone rain deck. You usually see those with green splash, like a Jund build, because there's lots of spells in green that let you destroy lands and also ramp you at the same time. Like a Frenzied Tillings is an example of that. Yeah, Jeleva is just so fun and cute to build around. I want to keep this active simply because I have so much hate against my other Jeleva deck in my group right now that I essentially cannot play it. So most of the time when I bring this to the table, I still get some heat until they recognize, or until I start emphasizing that I'm playing burn. Then they'll still kill her out of spite usually. Again, I will stress this, as I did in my other video, Jeleva is a fantastic general to play, but she will get unwanted hate simply because you're pulling cards off the opponent's deck. If your deck wins half the time, it still doesn't matter, because if your opponent's threat assessment is average to poor, they will just see you pulling cards and want to kill her out of spite. Even if you can't win or you don't have any good setup, they'll still just want to kill her. Even if there's just a poor selection of cards underneath her, they still may see even as smallest of a cantrip as enough of a reason to kill her. But of course, in a competitive environment, there's a lot better things to do with Jeleva than, 48 burn spells. But I hope you enjoyed this very budget, very underwhelming deck. Again, the important thing to take from this is the land base and the artifact accelerant, because you don't need expensive lands to make a functional EDH deck. It's just not necessary. And there's a lot better cheap budget lands than what you are thinking. The generic ones that come to play tapped and they're nice. Some of them just gain you 1 life. Those are pretty decent. The temples are infinitely better, but just fixing your colors, if you're after that, then you can easily get that with the super cheap Terramorphic Expanse effects, and I would definitely suggest that before investing money in a more expensive land base. Expensive lands will make a more competitive deck because you are not playing tap lands earlier. You're having your lands fixed and you can play your spells as early as possible. But if you're just designing your deck correctly with appropriate acceleration, just 1 and 2 drops that can correct your colors, you really don't need them. And if you're playing green, you really don't need an expensive land base because you can just play ramp itself. But yeah, I hope you enjoy this terrible deck. If you have any comments, I'll probably keep this active because, again, I have all the cards. There's no point in getting rid of these. I'll probably just keep it active for a little bit longer and probably make some other thematic budget version of her. But any ideas, I'm always welcome.